When people hear myth or legend, they are often associated with superstition. However, the legend of the Great Flood is found in 254 major ethnic groups and 84 language regions around the world. In Mesopotamia, Greece, India, China, the Maya and other civilizations, there are legends of flood extinction at different times. Archaeological teams have even dug up sand layers more than 3 meters thick in the ancient ruins of Sumerian civilization. These layers of sand indicate that a massive flood occurred here 4,500 years ago. These similar prehistoric flood records make people wonder whether a catastrophe really happened in the history of human civilization. The Great Flood is recorded in myths and legends all over the world. If the Great Flood really existed, it means that the myth is history. To this day, the existence of great floods is still a great debate in academic circles. Archaeologists generally believe that the Great Flood did not exist, because there is no archaeological evidence for its existence. On the other side of the argument are geologists. Geologists generally agree that great floods exist, because there are always traces of water erosion in geological structures, which are so large that cover almost the entire Earth. Here are a few pieces of evidence that the Great Flood may have happened in ancient times. Evidence of the Great Flood. 1. Fossils. According to biologists, when an animal dies and is deposited in sedimentary rock, it fossilizes over thousands of years. But now gradually archaeologists and geologists also believe that the formation of fossils may not be so slow. Because if an animal dies on the ground, it may have been eaten or decayed before it was buried and fossilized. It doesn't sit there waiting for dust or sand to be buried and then slowly fossilize. It must have been quickly covered by something, pressed without air and slowly fossilized. So it was buried very quickly, definitely not very slowly. What is it that can bury a dinosaur dozens of meters high at once? There are several possibilities, such as the dinosaur falling into the mud or swamp by itself. Another possibility is that the Great Flood rolled up the sediment all at once and covered the animals under them, turning them into fossils directly. Another particularly obvious example is Darwin's observation that soft tissue animals do not have fossils. Like jellyfish, whose fossils cannot be preserved. But that's not the case. Fossils of jellyfish have been found all over the world in modern times. Even the fossils of mollusks like algae from more than 4 billion years ago can be preserved. How did the fossils of such soft tissue animals be preserved? The only way they can be preserved is if they get buried quickly. You may be wondering, what is it that quickly buries jellyfish living in water? Aren't jellyfish already in the water? Although we can't see a great flood, we can imagine what a great flood is. It is a bit like a tsunami. That tsunami is black, and it is full of sand and rock. After the tsunami came, all the things and creatures were directly involved in it, directly turning them into fossils. So things like fish or jellyfish fossilize in this way. You can imagine it. Why are so many fossils that we see now? Especially dinosaur fossils. Why were they dispersed so widely? It is possible to say that dinosaurs or other creatures accidentally fell into so many mires or mud, but how to explain jellyfish fossils? Does this mean that this rapid burying event happened on a large scale in ancient times? Evidence of the Great Flood. 2. Jurassic World in Canada. Dinosaur Provincial Park in Canada, located in the famous Badlands, is one of the largest dinosaur fossil mines in the world. The Montmorillonite clay rock formed by the accumulation of volcanic ashes covered with a large number of dinosaur fossils there. From excavations, scientists have found that many dinosaur fossils were in the pose of struggling to lift their heads and tails. This is the typical posture for dying in water, and scientists call it the death pose. Since the first dinosaur fossil was discovered in 1889, more than 400 complete dinosaur skeleton fossils have been excavated in Dinosaur Provincial Park and transported to museums around the world for exhibition. More than 60 million years later, these giant fossilized skeletons remain in the strange posture they died in. The results of the excavation shocked the whole world because scientists found that only animals assume such a posture when drowning. What on earth caused so many dinosaurs to be drowned collectively so quickly, and even some dinosaurs lived in water? Evidence of the Great Flood. 3. Marine fossils on Mount Everest. In recent times, near the summit of Mount Everest, people have been shocked to find fossils of shells and marine life. Why do shells living in the sea appear on the 8,848-meter mountain? If it was caused by the movement of the Earth's crust, how many years of movement should it take to form a towering mountain peak from the sea? Therefore, geologists believe that Mount Everest tens of millions of years ago was an ocean. If such a high altitude of Mount Everest is an ocean, then the rest of the world is covered by sea water, which means that there was basically no land on the Earth at that time. This phenomenon probably can only be explained by a global flood. Cause of the Great Flood. As for the cause of the prehistoric flood, scientists have not yet found a scientific explanation. The most popular explanation today is that a huge asteroid hit the Pacific Ocean, causing tsunamis, earthquakes, and great floods. This argument sounds reasonable, but it is difficult to explain that great floods in the legend are caused by continuous heavy rain for dozens of days. Asteroid impacts can cause great floods but cannot form continuous torrential rains for several days. Another explanation is the shift in the Earth's axis. As we all know, the Earth's axis is at an angle, which is why the Earth has 4 seasons. According to research, the last shift in the Earth's axis coincided with the Great Flood surprisingly. The shift of the Earth's axis is completed in a very short period of time, which will cause changes in the North and South poles and drastic changes in the climate. The original temperate zone may soon become a polar region. The polar ice and snow melt, the sea level rises, and the atmosphere changes drastically during the whole process. It is easy to form superstorms and great floods. Changes in the Earth's axis are also likely to cause crustal movement and tsunamis. This is extremely similar to the legendary Great Flood. There is also a very surprising consistent fact in the legend of the Great Flood around the world. No matter the ancient Chinese, ancient Greek, ancient Egyptian, ancient Indian, ancient Inca, they all mention that before the Great Flood, the god selected one of his faithful believers, taught them how to escape the disaster, and preserved a certain civilization. But why would our common ancestors conspire to make up a story like this? Should we re-understand human myths and legends in this way? Some of the events that the ancients saw at that time could not be explained by their wisdom and knowledge, so this memory imprint left in the brain from generation to generation produced myths. Myth cannot be imagined by the ancients, it must have a certain basis or a certain truth. So what exactly are the gods that the ancient people talked about? Or are the so-called gods actually aliens who brought advanced civilization to the earth?